Okay, tell you what, why don't we just go ahead and get started? We've got quite a few people in here. I don't want to waste everybody's time. So here we go. Everybody ready? Deep breath. Thanks for joining us today. So what we're do today is we're gonna have a short, quick little webinar. We're probably gonna try to keep it to about 45 minutes. What we want to do today is talk about kind of introduction to SEO, really high level, what is SEO? What can it do for you? And then at the end, we have some options to get started. We have been working really hard on making some packages for you to actually choose from if you want to take the leap and get going. And so I'd like to introduce you to my new colleague, Julie Weber. I don't know where to point to, but she's got a bright blue shirt on with some flowers around the collar. She's great. So say hi, Julie, and then I'll tell you a little bit about how we met.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much. I'll do a quick intro of myself in a little bit, but
Great.
Excited to be here.
Great. So Julie Weber and I were connected by the fantastic graphic designer Kelly Perso, who many of you have met in our efforts together. Kelly moved to Wisconsin a few years back, and she started kind of reaching out to some local people for connections and whatnot. And she started working with someone named Jenny. I can't remember her last name. Julie, you remember Jenny something?
Rebels.
Jenny, and she was a graphic designer as well, right? I can't remember.
She's a PR, and she's another writer, kind of like myself, but she focuses on PR.
PR, okay. The two of them started connecting, and then somehow Julie knew Jenny. Anyway, it was all kind of like third party. We all know each other. But we, through these conversations, discovered that Julie is an expert SEO, an SEO expert. And we, like yourselves, you're probably joining us here today because you've been curious about SEO and what it can do for you. And up until now, we've just kind of said, well, I don't know, we haven't really thought about it too much. And I didn't want to bring anything to the table unless we kind of, had it really polished. And so, I guess the long story, I'm trying to make this a little bit shorter story, but one of our recent clients, Christie Architecture, Lisa and Adam Christie, they have a small architecture studio here in Portland, like I guess up north in Portland, was really gung-ho on getting some SEO going. And Julie and Lisa started working together. Julie created a SEO package for her, and they started doing SEO for Christie Architecture. Now, Lisa Christie is probably one of the most persnickety, detail-oriented architects or people in general that I've ever met. I mean, fine grain, it just took way longer to get it done because she was so detail-oriented. And so this is someone who is, incredibly careful, incredibly focused, laser attention on whatever she's working on. And when she got finished doing her SEO stuff, well, it's kind of a work in progress. She absolutely glowed, like raved about how awesome Julie was working with her on SEO. And so I thought, hey, if one of my most, I wouldn't say eccentric, but, extremely, crazy detailed architect friends, raved about Julie, then Julie has got to be, top dollar, she's got to be the best. And so, Julie and I started talking about how we could work together. Thankfully, Julie was up for it. And I'm going to let Julie jump in now and kind of maybe you can talk about kind of your background and why we're just such a perfect fit.
Sure. All right, let me share so you can see my slides.
All right, can everybody see Julie's screen?
Looks like it. Okay. All right, so I'll go through and I'll give you a quick introduction of myself and my background, and then we'll get into kind of the nitty-gritty. So why SEO is important, just the basics, how to get found and grow your business, and then how SEO is used. And there's a variety of ways. There's keywords, there's the content that you have on your website, and then there's authority, which I'll talk about a little bit. And then at the end, I'll show the new plans that Colin and I have come up with for SEO packages. that you could potentially work with me to do some optimization or keyword discovery. So hi, I'm Julie Weber. I'll skip over here. Here's my origin story. So
This is great.
I yeah, this is the picture is me as a baby with my mom and my grandma. My grandma was a writer. She wrote a book. This is the book right here, Summer Mockery. This little excerpt is from when I was 7, and I said, I really want to be an artist when I grow up. Here are some of the paintings that I've created. So I have this I had this admiration for my grandma and her ability to write. I had this desire to be an artist, and I really didn't know what to do with my life. And so I decided, well, I'm not going to choose, I'm going to do both. And so essentially what happened is I went to school, I got a degree in interior design, and I started working in the field. I was primarily working for furniture dealerships in the Milwaukee market. So I was using my design degree to do floor planning and layouts and finish selection for furniture and office spaces for the most part. I mean, we did some healthcare, some hospitality, things like that. But while I was doing that, I said, I still have this dream or this desire to be a writer. And so I worked on some customer success stories at the firm that I was working with. We did a green newsletter that I kind of championed. And then I decided, okay, I need to get another degree. Just why not, right? So I went back to school and I got a degree in English with a focus on professional writing. And through the kind of fate of events, during 2009, during the recession, I actually was able to pivot and switch from a career in interior design, which everyone knows was very challenging at that time, to a career in marketing. And I started that working for a company that sold shelving called Space Saver. You may have worked with them or heard of them. And I started marketing to the architect and design industry. And so that's sort of like how my marketing career was born. And since then, I've worked for a variety of firms, companies, manufacturers that do furniture and furnishings, architectural products, and then beyond. So I've kind of, in my career, branched away from the industry, but still kind of adjacent with companies like Johnson Controls and Rockwell Automation and things like that. So that brings me to today. And through all of that experience, I have done a little bit of everything when it comes to marketing, but my specialty is content creation. And a huge part of content creation is SEO. You really can't have one without the other. Otherwise, you won't be effective. So
let me jump in and just say,
Oh, sure.
guys, this is why Julie, her background just fits perfectly for Minimize and all of you, because we've tried, as you guys know, I was an architect for 20 years at ZGF in Portland, and ended up switching over to web development, and now Minimize builds websites, and we cater to AEC because we get it, and so when Julie came along, her path was almost exactly the same. She had a degree in the AEC field, but then kind of specializing in doing content marketing and writing content for architects and engineers. It's just perfect. And so it's going to be great. I think it's going to be a perfect marriage of talents, bringing us all together, and having Julie be able to write content that is specific to the AEC industry.
Yeah,
I have a quick question.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, this is Marina.
Hi.
Maybe Colin could just qualify something for me. I'm assuming that the folks on this call have a custom WordPress website that you've created. And I know I tend to jump ahead sometimes. So if you're going to get to this, just say, sit tight.
Okay.
But you showed us the Yoast as an SEO. And so at a very cursory level, some of us might be doing that. So we connect the dots on what you showed us we could do versus what maybe can be done?
That is exactly right. And I think Julie is probably going to get into those details a little bit later about, first, I think, excuse me, Julie, but I think she's probably going to talk about why it's important, why, obviously why you need it, and then how can you
Yeah.
get there? And then
I
one of
do.
those tools is the Yoast, Maria.
Yes, there are multiple tools, but the screenshots that I have in the presentation are showing Yoast. So you can see kind of how the things you input into that system show up on the front end. So you can see kind of the back end and the front end. And then if there's specific questions I don't address about Yoast, or maybe where you're at today, we can cover those too.
Thank you very much. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. So I thought I'd start out with a little SEO humor. Maybe it's only funny to me, but I saw this meme earlier this week. These people have mastered SEO, and it says restaurant near me. So I think everyone can maybe relate to this. When you search for something, a lot of times now you're doing home repair near me, architects near me, designers near me, restaurants near me. So I want to emphasize the importance of 20 years ago, search engine optimization was pulling, your keywords. It was looking for architect, designer, and it wasn't necessarily taking into consideration where you were located. Today, that is very different. Google really wants to serve up the content to you that's relevant to your location. So you can see on the right-hand side, I did a quick search, restaurants near me. This is showing restaurants near where I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It even narrowed it down to my neighborhood, which is Enders Park. I am logged in to Google. You can see my little picture up there on the right-hand side. Oops. I'm going to go back. And essentially what this does is it's saving my search history. So it's getting to know me. It's also like if you're going to a site and it says, do you accept or reject cookies? If you accept cookies, then when you go back to that site, it knows who you are. It's loading all the images. It's already saved. All that stuff has to do with being logged in. If you're not logged in, or if you're in incognito mode, it still knows where you are. It's just not saving that data. Other websites can't save your data, and it's not saving your search history. So location is very important. So
Hey, Julie, go back on that picture of the restaurant. That's not a Photoshop. That's a real, they actually put the letters on the front of the business.
Oh, I think it's Photoshopped. I think it's
Oh, because
yeah,
somebody should make the name of the restaurant near
absolutely.
me. That's just be the name of the restaurant.
Yeah, I think it's just supposed to be a joke, like, haha, this is what you should do if you want to show up in a search, because
Oh my gosh.
this is how people search today.
That's great.
Yeah. So showing up is very important. That is why we talk about SEO. We want to show up when our potential customers or prospects are searching for things like restaurant near me, architects near me, architects in Milwaukee, architects, the location is very important. So there's two ways to show up. And you'll notice this when you do a Google search. You'll show up on the map, and that usually comes up first. And you will show up in the search results, which usually show up down below the map. So here I'm just showing, again, when I did that search, there's the map on the left side, there's the results on the right side. Sometimes within those results are sponsored results, which means that people are paying to show up when you use that search term. And I'll talk about that a little bit more. So the map is very important. So there's kind of two things, when it comes to SEO, there's your website, there's your keywords, but there's also location-based searches. So I definitely recommend getting your business discovered on Google. This is how you do it. You just enter a few details. This is where people and customers can leave reviews, which is also very important and helps you with search results, because the more reviews you have, the more relevant you are. The more relevant you are, the more likely you are to show up in the map. And this is just an example. This is real data from that Google business listing that is showing, like, this is how many websites got to that profile, how many views, how many searches. And this is the kind of thing that you can track when you set that up. So that's the map part of it, which is very important. But there's the keywords part of it. And keywords, there's a, a whole process that I won't necessarily talk about that, but I like to do some competitive research, look at, what people potentially would be searching for when they're looking for your services, to come up with a list of targeted keywords and keyword phrases. But those keywords put into your website and into your content help you show up in the results section. So this is separate from the map. This is Google looking at your website, and this is how you show up. Now, Restaurants Near Me is a little bit different. It's picking up, you can see all of these things like TripAdvisor and OpenTable, and these are these like third-party sites that do reviews or that list restaurants. But if I were to say something like restaurant in Milwaukee, Milwaukee-based restaurants, I would get actual like result of restaurants that use those keywords in their content. So keywords need to be in two places, and you can see on the left, there's the metadata, which I'll kind of talk about what that is in a little bit. But this is actually a screenshot of the Yoast SEO plugin. So there's sections of your website, titles, slugs, descriptions, where you want your keywords to show up. This is sort of like an invisible place. We see it in the back end, but it doesn't necessarily show up on the front end. It's how Google finds you, but it's not necessarily visible to someone looking at your website. Now, there's also the content on your pages. And I just, this is an example from my own website. On the left in the metadata, I'm saying my title is content creation services. On the right, the title of my page is also content creation services, and it's showing up actually on the website. And so there are two places where you have to put your keywords in order to show up in a search. So I mentioned metadata. It's kind of like meta what?
Yeah.
But even the definition of metadata is sort of meta. If you think about it, it's data about data. So it's information that explains the information. And how I think of this is, if Google is a person looking at a dictionary, the metadata is the table of contents. So it's basically the way that Google understands what the content is going to be on the page without actually looking at the content on the page, if that makes any sense. So I highlighted some sections here. Meta tags, that's like the areas in the code that have those keywords. It can't be seen on the website itself, but the search engine accesses it and picks it up. So it's very important to have all that data in the back end of your website structure, so that Google has something to grasp onto and to know what your site is about and what your pages are about.
So it's almost like having speaking a foreign language. So at the same time you're speaking English, you're speaking computer gibberish.
Yeah,
and they're both being like communicated at the same time. The visitor is hearing the English, but the computer is hearing the other language.
Yeah, absolutely. And then they also, the meta tags, the meta titles, they actually show up as the search result. So though they may not show on the page itself, when you search, content creation services Milwaukee, the search result that shows up is going to have that information that you plug into the back end. And I have an example of that in a second. This is just a little bit more about title tags and descriptions. So the title tag, one of the most important things, definitely want to keep your search term or your keyword terms in that title tag. It's kind of the first thing that the search engine goes to. The meta description, again, it summarizes the content that's going to be on your page. Google is like, this is where it goes to understand what it's going to learn about, but it's also what shows up in the listing on Google. So when you search Resonate or content creation services, then Resonate creative content might show up, and the description will be like, this is a content creation agency that specializes in, SEO or something like that. And it's going to tell the user, hey, this is what I'm looking for. I want to click on this.
That part is really important because that's like the first, it's the super quick, elevator pitch. Hey, what does your company do? You have one sentence to tell it. Bam, meta description. You just say, hey, we're a design development company based in Oregon, right there. And the reason why you need to use, if I'm getting ahead, my pardon, but Julie's taking some water anyway.
No.
the Yoast SEO plugin gives you the opportunity to modify that. Whereas if you don't have if you don't have an SEO plugin, the meta description is just there's no really way to dictate what that's going to be. And so by installing the SEO plugins and then having it manicured, you can, kind of dictate what that elevator pitch is.
Yeah. If you don't have a plugin, Google will just pull something, maybe from your homepage. Back in the day, people used to hard code this information in like HTML, and they could do it that way. But the plugins are so helpful because they make it very easy to plug in this information and see what it's going to look like and how it's going to show up. So yeah, I think they're just such a great addition to any website and makes it a lot easier to do the work that used to be very manual back in the day. Just a quick, slug is something that people ask me about a lot. So slug is something you'll see in the SEO Yoast plugin. It's basically, if you have like my website, resonatecreativecontent.com, then it's a slash, and the slug is what comes next. So services or portfolio or, whatever comes after that slug, it actually is really helpful to have your keyword phrases in the slug as well. So again, it's just another way for Google to know, like, oh, this person's content is relevant when I'm serving this up in terms of what someone is searching for. So if it was content creation services, my slug should say content creation services versus just services, because it helps with that search result. Okay, so this was what I mentioned before. So on the back end in the Yoast SEO plugin, and this is just an excerpt of again my own site, but the title is pulling information that's already entered into the system. So title, page, separator, site title, I can change those things. So I could delete the little button that says title and create my own title that has the correct keyword phrase in it. And you can see on the right-hand side, that would then replace where it says services, it says services - resonate creative content. If I delete that button that says title and I replace that with content creation services, that's what's going to show up there instead of services. So those things are automatically populated in the Yoast plugin, but you can delete them and replace them, which I do recommend in some instances, not in all, but in some. You can see I changed the slugs to content creation services. My meta description says content creation service provider based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Location is important. I think it's important to put that in the description. Specializing in copywriting and SEO services. And that you can see is what shows up on the right-hand side. This is showing the mobile result, but the desktop result looks very similar too. So the back end, very important. I mean, probably, that's sort of like baseline. To show up at all, you really need to have content in your meta descriptions, meta tags, slugs, all of that. But there's another important factor, and that's keywords in the content itself, the content that's on the website. And this is because over the years, Google has evolved. And it doesn't just look at the metadata anymore. It looks at the context and the quality of the information being provided. So, and now, with AI and things like that, Google is also starting to recognize when something is AI generated. And so there's all these, cautionary considerations that you want to make sure that your content is relevant, quality, and also includes your keywords. So let's say you have content creation services as the keyword. It's all in your meta description, your meta title, and your slug. On the web page itself that's describing the services that I provide, I would need to put that phrase in the content. This is an example. This is the blog section of my website. And I just did this to kind of show an example of populating the keyword into the content. So for this blog, how interior design prepared me for content marketing, I used content marketing as my keyword. So and Yoast is, again, it's such a great tool. It'll make recommendations for you on the right-hand side. When you add in that keyword as your focus keyword, it'll say, hey, did you put this in the first sentence? Well, I did. It'll say, hey, did you put this in your content at least 5 times? And it prompts you and gives you some guidelines of how to incorporate the content into your blog. Now, on web pages, Yoast doesn't go to that length, but if you have somebody writing content for you, it's that person should be aware of, like, okay, I need to use this keyword in the content, in the title, in the first sentence, at least 5 times. There's just some general rules, but doing those 2 things, putting the meta information in on the back end and putting the keyword into your content on the page is going to help serve up your site more frequently.
Yeah, I'll say one more thing. In your screenshot on the right-hand side, it has the Yoast SEO column, and then it shows, the problems, with the gray dot and the red dots. The red dots are things that you should improve on. But then what your screenshot is not showing is below that, there's probably about 10 or 20 green dots, which are like your hey, good job thing. It's, there's going to be a green dot that says, hey, good job. Your keywords are in the first paragraph of the page. And so just one of the things, Lisa Christie just started, the person I told you who loved working with Julie, she just got obsessed with those green dots. And she was just like, all she wanted to do is get those damn green dots going, no matter what it took. And it just became just an obsession. So hey, good for her.
Yeah, and there is a balance. I mean, you have to balance the context and quality of your content with the keyword phrase integration. So sometimes you might be trying and it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't sound right. It sounds like you're stuffing the keyword. At that point, you don't do it. You have to balance putting the keywords in with making sure your content is good quality and relevant to the reader. And it's kind of trial and error, but Google does pay attention to the quality of your content and the relevance of your content. And some of the relevance has to do with authority, and I'll talk about that now. So it's sort of, I don't want to say it, maybe a double-edged sword is the right word, but Google pays attention to authority. So if you are an authority on something, it's going to serve up your page results more often than, let's say, a competitor. How do you get authority? With more views. So it's like this weird cycle. And that's why PPC or pay-per-click does matter. It does sometimes help with authority. So you'll see often if someone's trying to optimize for a keyword, they will create a Google ad that will serve up their result in front of everybody else's for a short period of time to drive more traffic to that page. And so Google then says, oh, this page is getting a lot of traffic, a lot of visits. It must have relevant content. So then it'll start serving it up organically. It's a weird sort of pay to play kind of thing. Can you have one without the other? Yes. Sometimes you can get authority just through organic search traffic. But that pay-per-click, that's why people do it. That's why sometimes you'll search for Target and you'll see Target sponsored ad pop up and you're like, why does that happen? I know I want Target. Why is the paid ad showing up? That's why they're trying to boost their authority, in case anyone was ever curious about that.
I didn't know that. That makes a lot of sense though.
Yeah. Here's just an example of that. So I did just something kind of generic, was car batteries. So the sponsored stuff is showing up here. And these two ads here, advanced auto parts, 1-800 battery. And then the organic results also show advanced auto parts and, Walmart and certain things. So there's duplication. What's showing up in the sponsored section is also maybe showing up in the organic section, but one helps the other. And so sometimes they'll be the same, sometimes they'll be different, but it's a tactic that companies use to try and improve their authority or their ranking. Okay, I guess I went through that pretty quickly. The last thing I'll talk about, and I'll have plenty of time for questions, is kind of the plans that Colin and I have put together, in which I can, help with SEO. And it's 3 different options. We've got basic, intermediate, and deluxe. And basic, essentially what I would do is kind of the front end work of figuring out what keyword phrases and keywords that are relevant for your site to help you compete. I would do a competitive analysis of some of your main competitors to understand where they're showing up, and then create a list of keywords and blog topic suggestions, because a lot of the most popular searches nowadays are things like, how do I do this? Teach me how to do this, or, learning type content. And that is a great opportunity for you to answer those questions is by blogging. And that helps with SEO as well. And then we would provide you with a guide of how to put everything into Yoast. And it would kind of be like a do-it-yourself. So you'd get the keywords, you'd get the recommendations, but the back end work would be basically on you. The intermediate plan, all the same services are provided, but the page optimization, the blog optimization, and the alt tags and descriptions, we would do that for you. So it would be going into the Yoast plugin, making sure the slugs, the titles, the descriptions are all filled out. And that is based on the keyword phrases that we would identify.
Boy, that seems to me like a great value, because a lot of the pain points that I've been hearing is having to write all the alt tags for images and descriptions. It's just, I mean, there's a lot of data there, so that's a good value to take advantage of for sure.
Yeah. And just one comment about alt tags, and I didn't create a slide on this, but in the past, people would use them to kind of stuff keywords, and Google actually knows now what you're doing, and it doesn't like that. It wants the alt tag to serve as a way to make your site more accessible. So if someone is visually impaired or hearing impaired, they are, instead of, seeing the picture, let's say they are visually impaired and they want to know what the picture is, the alt tag is actually how they would do that. And, Google is making sure that you're making your site accessible versus putting the keywords in your alt tags. So it's, again, another kind of balancing act. You want to be relevant. You want to tell somebody what they're looking at, but there is a way to incorporate keywords into the image description, which is also kind of a meta.
Oh, okay.
Considered metadata. And sometimes it makes sense to put it in the alt tag, but you just have to make sure you're describing the image accurately. And Google pays attention to that.
That makes sense.
Julie, could you clarify? I'm looking at the back end of our WordPress right now, and in the image gallery, it's called alt text. And like, I do try to put descriptive things for images.
Yes.
But back on the actual, on another column, there's tags. What's the difference between tags and alt text?
So alt text is, think of it as specifically accessibility. So a way to describe the image to somebody who can't see it. Tags are more internal for you in your image gallery to say like, okay, this is a kitchen, this is an office, this is, it's grouping things together. Those tags are considered part of the metadata, so it may help with search. If someone's searching like office design, it could potentially, impact that, but That's more of a way for you to tag the images for yourself.
Internal organization. Gotcha.
Yeah. Alt text is very much about accessibility. Description is something that we want to pay attention to because it doesn't show up anywhere, but that's one of those things that Google is looking at in the back end. And then the tags, again, they're more for your internal organization, but they could play a part. It's just because they're tags, it's not going to be as important as the description itself. I hope that answered the question.
Could you give us an example of the difference between an alt text and a description?
Sure. I can actually go into the back end of my site and show you. Why don't I do that? Let me just quick talk about the third,
Yeah, let's do that.
whatever. The third plan is essentially everything I've already talked about, optimizing the back end of your site, but then it's also providing additional content for you. So it's basically making sure that you're maybe creating we've said 3 optimized blogs, 3 blogs that are answering those kind of key questions that came up in our keyword research, and putting those on your site to help increase the traffic. So
boy, that's great, because I could see that being a great way to kind of kickstart things and also have like a good example, you know.
Yes.
So Julie would create 3 blog posts for you, just you know, as part of the service. You wouldn't have to do it at all, and that would kind of boost, you know, start kicking things, you know, in the right direction, and then you could, you know, kind of read through those and see how she did it and kind of get the feel for it yourself, with those 3 awesome examples. So that seems like a lot of good value there.
All right.
I swear, I'm gonna open a restaurant, and the name of the restaurant is gonna be a restaurant near me.
I
That's
know,
gonna be
that's
the name of
why
the restaurant.
I thought that was so funny. Oh, sorry, it logged me out, but let me just do this.
Janine, I will. I'm gonna do it. In the
Okay.
comments, she's encouraging me.
Media. Okay, so if I go to, let's look at this one. So alternative text. This is what, and it even prompts you here. Learn how to describe the purpose of the image. Leave empty if the image is purely decorative. I wouldn't do that. I would still say like decorative swirls or something, because it's really about accessibility. So, you know, floor plan sketch. I could be more descriptive here of the blood center. Whoops. Blood center of Wisconsin lobby.
And also that little hyperlink is really a great resource. That should open up another tab.
Yeah.
And that's basically, you know, giving you guidelines that will take you through like a workflow thing. And they'll ask you questions like, well, is it a picture of something, or is it a graphic? You know, and then yes or no, it'll tell you, it'll go through steps to kind of how you can optimize that alt text.
Yep. And so my image gallery, and everyone's is a little bit different, I will say that. So I might have to look at yours specifically if you have a tags area, because I don't have it. But I have a place to put a title. The title is more for you to organize it and say, okay, this is my floor plan sketch. A caption will show up if you embed this into a page or into a blog. So if you put a caption, it's actually going to show up underneath it, describing what the image is. I don't usually use it unless I want that visual in my blog or on my site. And then the description, this is where you can use your keyword phrases. So this doesn't show up anywhere, but Google will look at it.
Makes sense.
And would
Does that
that
answer your question?
would that be something you consistently use across all your images? Or is that changing depending on the purpose of the post?
So the image, wherever the image is, this data will stay the same, but I would recommend for each image, the description and the alt text are unique. So if I put this image in a blog, the data will be the same as if I put this image on my web page. So the data is kind of attached to the picture itself. And then it follows it wherever you post it on your website.
Does that help, Marina?
Yes.
Okay, great. So let's jump back over to the plans. I want to be mindful of time. We've got
Oh, sure.
about 20, maybe 15 minutes left. We want to have time for, more comments and questions and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, so these are the three kind of plans we work back and forth to try to figure out, what's a low barrier to entry. The basic one is going to be like the least expensive, obviously, and deluxe is going to be most expensive. Just kind of depends on, where you want to start. I feel like the basic plan is really attainable for pretty much anybody. And you're probably going to get a lot of bang for your buck as long as you're willing to put forth a little bit of effort on your own.
Yep.
And of course, Julie will be available, to help you, guide you along the way. It's just you're going to be the one typing everything in. And then I can see there's great value in each one of those other steps. Again, it all just kind of depends on, cost. And maybe we could jump over, since you're already sharing screen, Julie, if you head on over to minimize, we've got a new plan, new page up under services. So if you go to minimize.com and then click the services, and then you'll see we've got a new SEO service offering. This page will pretty much give you a quick overview of what we talked about today. What is SEO? Why is it important? Ultimately, you're trying to generate more traffic. You're trying to get more business, right? So that's why you've come here. And we've got a quick little case study that I told you about that my friend Lisa just absolutely was glowing, raving about how awesome. Now, remember, this is the person I told you who was super obsessed with getting those damn green dots going. And it worked. I mean, she just absolutely was thrilled because she started seeing results like very quickly, like in a few weeks. She's like, I keep moving up, I keep moving up. And so she just kind of she really ran with it, So granted, she put a lot of time of her own into it, but it paid off because look, she is above people who live in Portland know that ZGF Architects is a big name. And look, she's right above them. So that's pretty impressive. I think. I mean, that really shows you the power of what this can do if you're willing to put forth the time and effort.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. And then, if you scroll down, oh, there's me.
Yeah. Hi.
But here are the plans as we talked about. And
yeah, so we have, we've got some pretty good reasonable pricing on these plans. The basic is really attainable. Like Minimize always does, we have a range. We offer a range because we don't really know for sure until we actually talk to you the scope. But these are kind of minimum and kind of roughly maximums about where we would start for each one of the packages. And also, if you while we're here, Julie, if you hover over each one of the go up a little bit, discovery meeting, competitive analysis, we actually have a little bit of what do they call these?
Like pop out description. Yeah.
Yeah. Helper tags kind of let you know what each of these things mean, so you can kind of browse these yourselves. But these are now ready to go. So if you feel like you're ready to make the leap, you just simply go to the package you want and click on the blue. Let's just demo this real quick, Julie. Just click on like any of them. You would just hit get started. No, we're not asking for payment right away. We're just kind of taking some initial onboarding information. What package do you want? When do you want it? Do you already have the Yoast SEO on your site, like Marina obviously does? And then have you started working on it? And just kind of any other stuff. And this will kind of help us learn what your needs are initially, so that when we contact you, we kind of know a little bit about things and make things go a little faster. So here we are. That's kind of what we have for you today. And it's been a long time coming, but I think the results are pretty sweet. And I think I personally feel like these packages give you kind of a good range to choose from. And I definitely feel like the smaller one is really attainable for pretty much anybody who wants this to work. Of course, if you don't think this is important, then at least you've learned something today. So
yeah.
Any feedback or any questions or comments people have?
Yeah, it was really high level, and I am happy to answer any questions if you have something more specific or particular. I'm, please feel free to ask.
Oh, and don't forget, we muted everybody when they came in. So if you want to speak up, just unmute yourself first, or throw a comment in the chat window.
I don't want to sound stupid, but
hey, Janine.
Hey, what's a Yoast? I'm so sorry.
It's a piece of toast with a Y on it.
It's just the name. I actually don't know. It probably does stand for something, but it's just the name of the company that created the SEO plugin that works with WordPress. There's
Okay.
other plugins. There's like Rank Math, and there's another one out there, but it's just an add-on kind of tool that integrates into your WordPress instance.
Okay.
And Yoast is the name of the company.
All right. Because I've never heard of that, right, Colin? Because when we were going through all the website, I'm like, what does Yoast mean here? So
Yeah, I know. I bet you could Google it. Like, what is the
I'm
meaning
sure it does. I'm
of
sure it
Yoast?
stands for something. I don't know though what it is.
Yeah,
yeah.
So-
Well, this was very informative. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
yeah.
So
Great.
I'm gonna
Glad you
ask,
enjoyed it.
I'm gonna ask probably a really dumb question.
No.
Since Janine put it out there that she was gonna ask a question that was not dumb,
But Colin knows.
I'm the master of asking the worst question.
No, not at
What
all.
what is the end game here? Okay, like if every firm does this and every firm does it well, are we all just back to square one? Like, do we just keep duking it out forever to try to
Oh.
get Google to pay attention to us? Because this whole thing just seems like it's a black hole of never-ending work. And
It is. It
and relationships and research and all the things that we have to do. And what is the end game? So you get a firm like Christie who vaults up above ZGF, but somebody who wants ZGF is never going to hire Christie and vice versa. So are we all just going to keep duking it out at all levels, forever making our jobs harder and harder with fewer and fewer results that help us win work? And I know that's a really challenging question. I just don't understand where this is going.
Well, I'll address one part of it. There is constant work. So it's not something you can just set and forget. That's why content is really important. So creating new blogs, the more you refresh your site, the more quality content you put on your site, that helps with search results. So I would think of it as it's not like a never-ending battle between everybody. It's more like some people aren't going to do it and they're just not going to put their money there. They're going to focus on other things, which are equally important. I mean, PR, award submissions, all of that stuff, super important and actually can help you show up in search as well. But some people won't do it. So it's a matter of reaching the customer that maybe doesn't know anything about the industry, anything about the firm they want to work with. It's that kind of newbie customer that is just doing a search that maybe isn't going to read about you in a publication or see that you won an award. It's reaching that audience. So it's a very specific audience, I think, because the other ways of marketing, you're going to reach other people in those ways. It's just one part of the puzzle. And it's an important part, I think, and it will help grow your business, but it can't be the only thing. And to your point about like, are you just going to be duking it out with everybody? I mean, yes and no. You know, when people put money and focus behind SEO, you're going to see yourself climb, their self climb. It's gonna happen. I've seen it happen at some of the larger companies that I've worked for, that we're constantly fighting our competitors with these keywords. But it is important, and it does make a difference for those people that are searching that really just have no kind of base level information and that need something. And maybe that's not the target, market that you want to go after, but I think it's like I said, a piece of the puzzle, if that.
That's what I was going to say. One of your points was by doing anything at all, you're already doing more than the folks that just don't do shit, like don't do anything. And so you're already getting a leg up there. So you've eliminated half of your competition right there. But I mean, yeah, it's a good philosophical question, right? I mean, it's all about money at the end of the day for people, right? But it's all just kind of, it's like, hey, these are the one of the tools you have to boost sales, or at least boost opportunities, right? And so you're going to get higher up in those rankings, and every call is not going to be the best fit, but hey, at least they're calling you to see if it is a good fit, where you wouldn't have got that call in the first place. So it's all just kind of demand generation. And Lisa just said, her phone is ringing off the hook. So I hope she's got a secretary or somebody helping her out.
Well, I want to piggyback. Was it Michelle Yeah. I don't think most of us that work for architecture firms get a lot of business by cold calls. It happens once in a while, but I just wonder if other people might agree. For us, a lot of the content on our website is for recruiting and hiring quality employees. And so I don't know if today's students leaving, architecture and interior design programs are searching by certain key terms, or they're at career fairs or whatever, but we get an awful lot of feedback on how the content on our website resonates with people looking for work. So
Mhm.
That's a really awesome point, Maria, that it's not,
Yeah.
that is the SEO work that you're doing is not just for sales, it's for recruiting. And we all know how important that is to get the right people. And there's great value there for sure. That's an awesome point, Marina. Thank you.
Yeah, and you can absolutely, if that is your goal, you can absolutely create keywords that are going to help you show up for that type of audience. It's really all about what your end goal is. And sometimes maybe it's not, I think of SEO as it's not only to show up for someone maybe who doesn't know who you are, but to answer those core questions that so people can see you as a resource. And I think if they see you as a resource, then you become sort of that go-to for them, maybe when they have a project down the road. That's another way to look at SEO and content creation, is that it helps you stay, at the forefront of your audience as well. My dog is snoring. Anyways,
Your
well,
dog is not impressed with SEO at all.
yeah, I'm over it.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
So I think SEO is kind of new for a lot of people and started to kind of get attention from those who are like new to website creating or, redesigning the website and such. I find it really challenging to retrofit SEO. Like, so do you have any suggestions or advice when trying to retrofit SEO to the existing website?
It is challenging. I mean, there's not really a quick fix for that, but it would be to try and analyze your content and see how you can incorporate those keywords or keyword phrases into the existing content. And then definitely coming up with a strategy for the metadata. So let's say your core page or your portfolio page doesn't have your keyword phrase in there at all. You can just start with the metadata. So start with what's in the back end to help it show up as a result. And then you can, make changes over time that incorporate those phrases and keywords into the copy that's on the page itself. But yeah, it can be challenging. And in fact, most of the work that I've done for people is they already have sites up and they're kind of in that process themselves. Like, how do I retrofit this with what I already have? Because I don't want to change the beautiful content that I already have, but I want to show up in search. So it's a process. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good question for sure.
All
Well,
right.
good. These are great questions, everybody. I'm glad that Julie was able to kind of answer your questions, or at least kind of get started on answering them. And feel free to reach out to me or her. I'll send a follow-up email to everybody who attended and everyone who signed up to thank you for being here. And I'll send a recording of today's video. Well, it'll be on a web page. It'll be on a blog post because I want to be the authority, right? So I'll send you a link to our new blog page that will have this video embedded, and a thank you to everyone for coming. Any last questions before we wrap it up today? No? May I ask you any thoughts on the plans? Do they feel like they're something you might be interested in, or do you think they're too expensive, or do you think any thoughts on how we price these out for you?
My comment, Colin, it's about budget.
Always tight, I know.
Yeah.
On that. That's my only concern. Is
Sure.
there something that you can, help us start with a fee up front and then we continue it ourselves? Is that the whole plan, or is this
Oh,
something
I
consistent?
think that would be covered by the basic plan we have offered, right, Julie? The lowest
Yep.
tier.
It's
Mhm.
basically giving you the keywords and a guide
right.
of how to do it yourself. So we can definitely do that for you.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah,
I have a question.
sure.
We're a membership-based organization. So our plan is to attract our membership.
Yep.
And grow that. So it's not a product, but it, that's basically what it is.
We would have different keywords, obviously, to, bring us up on the top,
Mhm.
recruiting
Right.
members and,
It's-
getting more students involved.
Yep.
We're an interior, the IIDA, if you
Oh,
know
perfect.
what that
Yeah.
is. Yeah. So, we want to attract more members and, be up there. So when they search, and that's something that Colin and us are going to talk about, is adding a search to our website too. So,
Okay.
something different, but other than that, keywords can help bring us up more on top
Yes.
for searching.
Yes.
So we'll set up a meeting with Colin.
Well, that's a great thing about Julie's services is it doesn't have to be about sales. It can be more focused on recruiting, like Marina is requesting for their purposes, and then for your site, if you were to do the basic package, she would help you, custom tailor those keywords, for membership. How do we drive more members to the site? How would we get more signups? This is all a custom package we're offering to you for Julie to do the analysis and then come back and say, hey, here's some of the suggested keywords, and here's how you put them in. So it's malleable. You can use it for whatever function or whatever purpose you want to put it into.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
We're gonna have to wrap it up because we've got a hard stop at the hour. But I want to say thank you so much. This has been super informative for me. I've learned quite a few things, and I can't thank Julie enough for her time, and for all of you for being here. And again, just head over to Minimize and hit that new services offering if you want to take the leap, or be happy to reach out to me, and I'll get your questions answered the right way. So thank you, Julie.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thumbs up.
Colin and Julie.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.